This one looks crazy, but if you follow those same steps that we've been following, you'll see it's exactly the same problem. We're going to start by breaking this up into groups of 2, and we're going to look at each group of 2 and look for that greatest common factor. You do have to kind of compartmentalize things a little bit more, and you'll see what I mean by that. But let's just start with this group of 2. If I look at just the numbers, the common factor between 15 and 5 is, of course, 5. They don't both have an x, so x is not a common factor, but they both have at least one y. So I can factor a y out. And as I try to figure out what goes inside of these parentheses, I'm going to take the number and each letter separately. So I'm going to think to myself, I want to get a 15y cubed. I have a 5. What would I multiply that 5 by to get 15? That's going to be 3. And I want to get up to y cubed. I have a y. What would I multiply y by to get up to y cubed? And that would be y squared. And I'll move on to the second term. I have a 5 out here. What would I multiply this by to get 5? Just 1. So I'm not going to bother writing the 1 down just yet. I have an x in here. So what would I multiply this by to get a 5xy? Well, I need to put an x over here. And then I want to get a y up in here. I already have that y, so I don't need to include anything else. Moving on to the next set of things, I'm going to look at these numbers first. The greatest common factor there between 12 and 4 is 4. That's the biggest thing. I also can pull an x out of both terms because this has an x and this has an x squared. But even though this guy has y's, this guy doesn't have any y's, so I can't factor out a y there. So that's the biggest common factor between these two terms. What would I multiply 4x by to get 4xy squared? Well, again, taking it one at a time. If I have a 4 and I want to get up to 12, I'd have to multiply by 3. To get an x, I've already got that x. I don't need to include any more x's in this portion because I'll have a 12x. But I do want to get that y squared, so I'll have to put a y squared in here. If you're doing this part and you're like, I'm not sure if I did this right, take a hot second to think about what you'd get if you multiplied this by this. And you'll see you get a 12 with an x and a y squared. You get a 12xy squared. Moving on to this guy. If I want to get a 4, I already got a 4. I don't need to include any more 4s. I want to get up to x squared. I've already got an x here, so I'll include an additional x. Now I'm happy to see that these are both 3y squared plus x. That means that I probably did things correctly. If these things are not exactly correct, go back and make sure you factor out the greatest common factor, and then make sure all your exponents add up to the right things. But those should match for this worksheet and also for the test that we're going to take on this stuff when we do it. So they match, which means in essence I have like a 5y with one thing plus a 4x and another thing. Like instead of a b and a b, it's a 3y squared plus x. And just like with this, I'd factor a b out and be left with 5y plus 4x. I'm going to have this 3y squared plus x out in front and a 5y plus 4x on the inside as my final answer. It's a weird looking x. That's better. Yeah. Good luck.